Everyone has that one movie that they watched when they were a kid that for some reason just stuck with them for many years. For me, one of those movies was Balto. Today I'm going to be trying to shed some light on this movie and explain why it really had such a huge impact on me as a child, and why you the viewer should consider giving it a watch yourself. So if you all don't mind, I'm going to be spending the next 10 to 15 minutes gushing about how great this movie is. Balto is an animated movie directed by Simon Wells in 1995. Now, his name may not sound familiar to you, but trust me, he's been doing this thing for quite some time. From Who Framed Roger Rabbit all the way to films like Kung Fu Panda and Shrek. Just thinking back, I can remember it as if it was yesterday. I had to have been only 4 or 5 years old, and I'd just gotten Balto on VHS. Now, this is a bit irrelevant and kind of out of place, but one thing I remember particularly about VHSs were how hard those things were to open as a kid. They were all made out of this weird plasticky material that was so hard to open with tiny kid hands. Good times. Jokes aside, I remember this movie really having a huge impact on me as a kid, because it was one of, if not the first animated movie I owned as a kid, so naturally I would just watch it over and over and over again, on repeat day in and day out. Guess you could say I really enjoyed this movie. But how much of that is pure nostalgia? That's one thing I really wanted to discuss going into this video, because it's been quite a while since I've seen it, and honestly, I rewatched it just a few nights ago and it does hold up in some ways and not so much in others, but we'll get into that as we go throughout this video. So without further ado, let's talk about the glorious movie that is Balto. So surprisingly, Balto is actually based on a true story, so that means everything in this movie actually happened. Not one thing in it is fake. I mean, they made a memorial statue of the guy in New York. If that's not legit, then I don't know what is. Now, of course, this is the mindset of a kid that I'm playing into, but as an adult, you do realize there are a lot of things that are very much made up just for the movie's entertainment value. Anyway, the movie actually starts off in live action, with this young girl and her grandmother walking through the parks of New York. They then sit on a park bench as she starts to tell her granddaughter the story of Balto. Insert transition to animation and we're in. There's snow everywhere, and we cut to a dog race between two of the best racers, one of them being led by Steel, the most evil looking dog I've ever seen. Of course, he is the villain of the movie, so he cheats to win the race. We then cut to the scene with Rosie, who is the owner of another dog named Jenna, who is basically the love interest to Balto in the movie. In this scene, they're at the town's local carpenter, and he had just made Rosie her brand new sled. The child actor who plays Rosie does a great job of showing just how giddy she is. I honestly really like how realistic her mannerisms are, and I think she really did a great job.
Oh! That's it. I love these rubbers. I love this brush bow. I love this sled. Jenna, you're lead.
On their way out, we see Jenna and these other two dogs at the race, and boy oh boy does one of them have the hots for Steel, almost in a very creepy and uncomfortable kind of way. Around the end of the race, Rosie ends up dropping her hat and it gets blown right into the middle of the track, and for some reason nobody notices or decides to do anything about it. So in an effort to impress Jenna, Balto jumps in and retrieves the hat for her, only to be shooed away just because of how he looks. And don't get me wrong, I get that he looks like a wolf, but one would assume that he's been living in this town for all his life. I mean, he seems like he doesn't bite anyone or steal anything from people. I mean, I don't get why the town hates him so much. It's not like they're afraid of him.
Sure, Jenna would love to have you on her team.
Hey, Rosie, stay away from him!
Dad!
He might bite you, honey. He's part wolf.
Well, now you've hurt his feelings.
Yeah, that's a little racist, buddy, in a kind of not racist way. More speciest, if anything. Anyway, after the race, Steel greets Jenna, and the dog that has the hots for him literally has an orgasm from the sheer sound of his voice. I'm not joking, check this out.
Felicitations, Steel.
Ladies.
I honestly don't remember this scene as a kid, at least playing out like this, but man, there's no really going back after seeing something like that. Just kind of sends chills down my spine that like someone thought of that and said, yes, put this in the movie right now. Like, whoa. Little crazy. So Steel, being the hotshot he is blatantly harassing Jenna and obviously making her uncomfortable, and resorts to using the dreaded dog race card on Balto. Or I guess in this situation would be the breed card.
Well, maybe your taste runs more toward wolf.
Jenna, come on, girl. We're going back home.
Sorry, Steele. My girl is calling me.
Yeah, this man Steele will definitely be on the wrong side of history for his judgmental ways. So on Balto's way home, he is stopped by Steele yet again and his goons as they literally bully and harass him. Steele's lackeys are honestly nothing more than a Three Stooges clone. It's funny to see them on screen and you can tell they truly don't want to hang around Steele, but they kind of only do it because he bosses them around.
Get out of here, wolf dog. You better get back to your pack.
I'm thinking Balto's friend got his feathers ruffled.
I get it!
After leaving the town, we get this really interesting scene where Balto sees this pack of wolves off in the distance, and he kind of has this moment to reflect and kind of consider the idea of just dropping his current life and just joining them as a pack. But instead he hesitates and doesn't really want to give in and accept the fact that he is part wolf. Now, of course, you could dig deeper and read between the lines and kind of compare it to real life situations like people who are biracial or just people that have conflicting backgrounds and don't truly know which side to fully commit to, when in reality you should just embrace both sides of your past and just kind of create your own identity, which is really kind of deep for a kids movie. Not to say that that was what they were going with, but it's something I kind of saw and kind of thought about while watching. Here we also see that Balto lives alone on this abandoned ship with his uncle Boris, who obviously is not a blood relative, but you can kind of tell their history goes far back, and that despite their differences, they understand each other and get along. Their relationship kind of reminds me of Po and his father in the Kung Fu Panda movies.
You ever think about going back?
Don't fret, Fido. I'm sticking here until I'm sure you can stand on own 4 feet.
You're taking care of me.
They are also friends with these two polar bears who are just a real treat to watch on screen. They mostly act as comic relief characters and don't really have a whole lot of time to shine, but it is nice to see them do stuff. After seeing how troubled Balto is, Boris tries to encourage him to go talk to Jenna. In doing so, Balto finds out that Rosie, along with other kids, has caught some very deadly disease. The doctor says that unless they get this certain medicine, she could die really soon. And unfortunately, the medicine is ways away from their town.
Doctor?
She's the 18th case this week. And I'm out of antitoxin.
So the next day, the town sets up the dog races as a last resort to retrieve the medicine for all the sick children. But before they do so, they hold this race to ensure they recruit the fastest of the dogs. And of course, Balto decides he wants in on the action. But yeah, you guessed it, the other dogs discourage him and they call him trash and say get out of here. But he's not fazed at all. He pushes through and ends up winning the race, but of course Steele is not impressed. Like, give the guy a break.
Hey now, just a second here, Steele. I was the fastest dog.
You were the fastest. What?
I hated Steele so much in this movie as a kid, and I get that he is supposed to be a bad guy, but some of the stuff he does has no real merit or reasoning behind it. I wish they had tried to find a way to establish a reasoning for his hatred towards wolves. I feel like it could have made him a bit more compelling as an antagonist, and not just an evil dude. Anyway, the dogs go on their journey and Balto watches as they venture on the quest for the medicine. Now, I want you to keep in mind that the case they are carrying says fragile. So I anticipate that absolutely nothing bad or harmful should happen to this extremely delicate case of medicine. I mean, after all, it's meant to save lives, right? So the dogs end up lost in the storm and are unable to contact the town. So logically, the entire town gives up hope, and the same man that built Rosie's sled is now crafting her tombstone. Talk about dark shift in tone. Like, just imagine being in the shoes of this guy. Like, you just built this girl this sled and you probably spent weeks working on it, and then you see her all happy just for 2 days later to see her bedridden, and now you have to build her coffin? Like, jeez, man, this is crazy. After seeing this, Balto decides to go out and find the medicine himself. We then cut back to Steele and the others as he practically kills the man leading their sled. Also, did I forget to mention the medicine is fragile, very fragile, like it's a glass bottles of medicine, and this is happening to the box containing the medicine. I'm over here watching the medicine being jostled around in this little small cart and crate, and I'm just like, dude, it's gonna break. These kids are going to die. Do you not see how serious this situation is?
Looks like he's hurt bad, Steel.
What are we gonna do now, Steel?
Anyway, in this scene, you can kind of tell that Steel has just completely lost his cool at this point, and he really has no clue as to how to lead the others in the right direction. During this, we cut back to Balto and friends as they encounter one of the scariest looking bears I've ever seen put to film. Like, The Revenant doesn't hold a test to this bear. Just the way that it's animated and put together, it's such a simplistic design that it's practically a silhouette, but the added touch of the blue and orange lighting makes such a difference in its creepy factor. I mean, not even joking, I used to have nightmares about this thing as a kid. The design just left so much to the imagination as to what the bear actually would look like in real life that made it not as scary as seeing just a normal bear on screen. And that's something that's really creative and out there, and that you don't really see in a lot of movies as far as design of animals. I mean, a lot of time they just make it look cute and pretty, and you know, people will watch it. So it's kind of cool to see something like this. During the midst of this fight, Balto actually gets thrown underwater, and it's kind of a scary scene as it seems like he actually might die. And luckily the polar bears come down and save him, which is kind of shocking because apparently they couldn't swim, but yet they kind of do this flawlessly. Another weird thing that's kind of thrown in there, it's like the joke is they can't swim, but the one moment in the movie where they actually attempt to swim, they do it flawlessly, so I don't understand why that was kind of thrown in as a joke. So after their encounter with the bear, everyone seems at first glance to be alright, but Jenna is hurt, so he sends them home together as he tries to finish the trip alone. One important thing that I forgot to mention is that he's also been marking his path by scratching up the trees so he knows the way back. He then finds Steel and the others, but Steel is not really a big fan of being led by another person, so Balto is trying to get the medicine and Steel is not having it. I get that the other dogs are afraid of Steel, but I mean, there are like 6 of you. You guys can take him. Despite that, they watch the two fight and Steel gets defeated as he falls a mighty fall, and he really shouldn't have survived that if we're being honest. Balto leaves with the others, and of course, Steel, being the cuck he is, starts to scratch up every tree in sight, thus making it impossible for Balto to find his way back to the kids. Like, I don't understand this guy's thought process. Like, did he think they were gonna all get lost and die? And is that really what he wanted? Did he want all the kids to die? All the dogs to die? I don't understand what his motives were. Like, is the glory really worth it? I mean, these people are gonna be more sad about the fact that all these dogs aren't coming home than they are gonna be about how amazing of a hero you were for making it back in the first place empty-handed. Like, I just don't understand it. Like, is he just stupid? That's probably it. Yeah, he's stupid. Let's just go with that. So Balto gets a little frustrated at the fact that he doesn't know his way back and starts just running in any old direction and gives this man yet another near-death experience. And keep in mind, I'll say this once more, the medicine is fragile. They reach a cliff, Balto ends up falling down along with the fragile medicine, and yep, pretty sure the medicine is unusable at this point. So now Balto is lost, and we cut back to Steel as he has actually made it back before them, and he tells everyone that Balto is dead and that he went rogue and he just wanted to be, well, I'll let him explain it. I'll let him explain his BS because it's just hilarious.
What about the medicine? Well, I went on, dragging the medicine alone, all alone, and then suddenly, that wolf dog appeared. Balto. He demanded I let him take the medicine. You know, he just wanted so much to be a hero in your eyes. And he grabbed the crate, but he couldn't handle it. He couldn't see the patch of ice, the snow, the wind, and then the log, and the cliff. Well, he just didn't have a chance. I'm sorry. made me promise to take care of you, Jenna.
Pretty convincing, right? Well, luckily Jenna sees right through his BS and goes to shine a light to help them find their way back home. We then cut back to Balto as he meets this white wolf yet again and encourages him to embrace his wolf traits and use them to escape this storm. I guess he is built for this kind of thing if you think about it. He then climbs all the way back up and he ends up putting the medicine back and they keep trugging along on their trail. Also, let me point this out because this also pissed me off, kind of like with the medicine sort of thing. So the dogs are literally just sitting there. Like the whole time while Balto was down there, like kind of getting his whole inner wolf going on, these dogs have been sitting here letting this man die of hyperthermia. Like it's literally been a whole day and this dude is still knocked out in the freezing cold, and there's something about it that I just find hilarious, that these dogs they have no empathy for this person. I mean, he's your musher. He's been taking care of you, feeding you for years, I would assume, and you're just leaving him there to die? I can't with these dogs, man. They're savages. You over here, you dogs are calling Balto a savage wolf, but look at you. Look at you. Look in the mirror. You're the real monsters. Anyway, after a few hours of running, they manage to nearly die again, trigger an avalanche with a mere sneeze, might I add, and stumble upon this cave, which also nearly kills them as stalactites start to fall from the ceiling, nearly destroying the somehow perfectly fine medicine. Anyway, they return with the medicine and Steel gets exposed for the manipulator and liar that he is. And we get probably one of the best lines in the entire movie.
Steel, you are positively disposable.
I'm telling you, these dogs are savages. They do not have any chill whatsoever. These dogs will literally end your career. So they grab the medicine out of the crate, which very well should be destroyed and in pieces, but let's not question that. Also, I really like how they are so quick to grab the medicine that not a single person notices that the potential dead corpse lying in the sled is sitting there. I mean, I get the kids need help and all, but this dude literally risked his life to help them too. He probably needs more medical help than they do. I mean, this movie, man, it just has wild things in it that don't really make any sense whatsoever, but I do like the movie a lot. It's just, there's a lot of little things that I like to make fun of and joke around about it, because like at the end of the day, this stuff is funny to me. Like, it's not things that I'm picking out and nitpicking to say like, oh, this is bad or this is stupid. It's just really funny. I look at this stuff and I laugh. Okay, so upon his return, Balto finally gets the recognition that he always wanted, and of course Jenna gives him those happily ever after eyes. So in animated movie fashion, they do that thing all animals do where they just kind of run around each other and rub their faces on one another, because that, my friends, is true love. I mean, who needs kissing when you can get some cheek on cheek action, am I right? That kind of sounds weird. But anyway, we then transition back to the real world and we get this big reveal that Rosie was the grandmother the whole time and that she still thinks about Balto to this very day. And it's a pretty heartfelt moment, honestly. We then get a nice little panning shot of the statue itself and credits. So yeah, that's Balto, one of my most treasured movies as a kid. I get that it's not the best movie in the world, but it by no means is a bad movie or mediocre. It's very solid, and honestly, there really aren't that many problems in the movie. Most of them kind of rely on the villain or Steel, and it's really just a matter of writing. I mean, they could have easily threw in an extra few scenes to kind of make him more of a villain or make him have more motive to his actions, but other than that, I mean, what's to hate about the movie? For those who made it this far into the video, I commend you for sticking with it, because this video took a long time to make, and I really appreciate all of the support on the last video I made. I mean, 200,000 people came through and watched it, and honestly, a thank you doesn't really feel like enough. Nevertheless, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if so, click the subscribe button, like, it really helps me out, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.